The Absolute Universe and the Absolute Comics are some of the best stories at DC Comics right now. And if you were curious how that universe came to be, then you've found yourself at the right location. This is the full story for Absolute Power, the story in which Amanda Waller seized all power for herself and how the heroes of the world reacted. This video will include the prologue, Absolute Power Ground Zero, the main series, Absolute Power Issues 1 through 4, and the epilogue, the DC All-In Special, where we will see how the Absolute Universe was created from all of this. And if you're wondering where you are, you've found yourself at the Comicstorian Full Story Series, where we take a collection of complete stories that relate to one another, put them together into one long video to give you a better viewing experience. This is Absolute Power. I hope you enjoy. Trees whip past as Jay Nakamura runs headlong through the forests of Gamora, his home nation. He looks back, trying to see his pursuers, but bullets rip through the trees, passing through him as he uses his powers to phase. He doesn't know why they are chasing him, just that they killed his mother and are now after him. He passes through another tree, unaware that someone is watching him, targeting where his foot meets the ground when he isn't phasing. The shot rings out and strikes through his ankle, and Jay lets out a scream of pain as he falls to the ground, shocked that the sniper knew where to target. He looks up to see a friendly face. "Dreamer?" he says with excitement and a small bit of relief, not noticing the look of sadness on her face. "Should have known you'd show up. Nothing gets past you," Jay says with joy. He struggles to his feet and prepares to flee with his friend. But Dreamer's dream energy wrap around his wrists and stops him from phasing. Jay turns back, not understanding. "Please, don't make me hurt him," Dreamer says to the shooter as he steps out of the woodline. "You know what to do, kid," the shooter orders. Realizing that he's been betrayed, Jay rushes forward and tries to fight Dreamer, but she hits him hard in the chest, knocking him into the world of dreams. Later, Jay awakens in the brig of a US destroyer. Jay sits against the wall, still reeling from being betrayed and the death of his own mother. Eventually, an apple is thrown in front of him. "Sorry, it's all I could get," Dreamer says from the other side of the bars. Jay glares at her. "Nia, why am I here? Why does Waller want me?" Jay demands. Nia looks away in frustration. "She didn't tell me. I've only been able to see bits and pieces," she says. Nia tries to explain to Jay that she had no choice, that Waller kidnapped her family and threatened to kill them if she didn't help the Suicide Squad. "If I don't do exactly what she wants, she's going to kill them," Nia says, trying to make Jay understand. But he looks up at her. "They killed my mom too," he says softly. He stands, and anger begins to fill his voice as he shouts at her, pointing out that she merely traded her family's death for his. "I tried to do the right thing. I really did," Nia says, with tears in her eyes. "I can't believe how selfish you are. You chose your people over mine, and you expect me to forgive you?" Jay grabs a hold of the bars, shouting at her. "I swear, I will get out of here, and I will make you pay for what you did," Jay snaps at her. Nia walks away from the cell, with Jay's shouts of anger echoing through the corridors. Nia joins Waller in the Situation Room, glaring at her, promising to herself that Waller will pay for this, that she won't be safe behind her threats and blackmail. Nia's hands curl into fists as she makes this promise. John Starr is dead, and his body lays on a slab. Energy suddenly swirls around him, and he suddenly becomes young again. John sits up with a gasp to find Amanda Waller standing nearby, holding an hourglass that emits the energy. "Time, Commander. Welcome to the Suicide Squad," she says with a smile. John thanks her for bringing him back with his hourglass, but asks why she would do such a thing. Waller motions him to follow her and leads him through the compound. I need your expertise and your device. I'm told it can reverse things in a broken state. I wasn't even sure if it would work on your corpse, Waller says. She stops for a moment to pour herself a cup of coffee, and eventually she leads John into a massive lab. Now, you're going to tell me why it isn't working on this, Waller says as she motions to the failsafe robot. John looks at the robot in awe, reaching out a hand for it. It's crackling with energies I've never seen before. They're causing an interference, John says. Waller nods, explaining the history of failsafe and how it was used against Batman. I need it brought back online. We'll give you any tools you need. Succeed, and I'll give you a new lease on life, Waller says. John agrees, but he knows the truth of Amanda Waller. He's heard stories of her vicious nature. He needs to buy time and begins to work, doing what he can to alter his chronal hourglass to fix failsafe. But in reality, he is building a time device, something that will allow him to escape. Finally, he only needs a few things. He bangs on the door and Waller's gunman answers. I need new supplies, John says, rattling off some tools that he makes up on the spot. The guard sighs and shakes his head. I don't see that in the system, he notes. Just take me to the vault and I'll get what I need, John says. And the guard finally agrees and leads John through the compound. In the vault, John begins to rummage through the tools, trying to find something useful while the guard orders him to hurry up. Finally, he picks up a strange-looking screwdriver. What's that? Some sort of screwdriver? The guard asks. John nods and turns on him, stabbing him with the electronic device. Yeah, tightens components and fuses them with an electric current, John shouts as energy runs through the guard's body. With the guard knocked out, John begins to move quickly, gathering what he needs so that he can finish his time device. And as the guard comes to and opens fire, John activates the device and disappears through time. But when he snaps back to the past, he is surprised to find himself in another cell? Where am I? I'm supposed to be in Arizona in 1312, John says to himself. He looks outside the cell to see himself walking through the compound with Amanda Waller. His eyes widen as he sees her show his past self the failsafe robot. When Amanda finally leaves the past John, she walks into the room with his cell. Hello, Mr. Starr. Sorry to keep you waiting. I needed to chat with your past self, she says with a smile. John is confused, but Waller explains that they have chronal rerouting devices within the building that will only allow John to time travel in this area to trap him. Now, since you've already studied failsafe for the past 5 days, let's put all your knowledge to good use, Waller says. And so, John begins to work, using his knowledge to modify his hourglass and bring failsafe back to life. And eventually, the robot's eyes light up once again. Waller steps back and admires John's work with a smile. What now? Am I free to go? John asks her. But Waller shakes her head and leads him into another room. Oh, Mr. Starr, you're far too valuable for that. Your work is just beginning, Waller says, motioning to the room full of Amazo robots. Now that you've modified your hourglass to work on robots, I need 6 more just like it, Waller tells him. The Brainiac ship explodes somewhere in the vastness of space, but a rocket blasts away from the explosion, with a course set for Earth. The ship lands somewhere in the frozen lands of the North, where it is discovered by the leader of Task Force X. Waller looks down at the crashed ship with her guards standing nearby. The canopy suddenly opens with a hiss, revealing the female-shaped android within, the creature known as the Brainiac Queen. Not what I was expecting, Waller admits. Heavy feet crunch through the snow behind her, and Waller turns to see Failsafe approaching. He reaches out a hand towards the Queen, his scans linking with her. That is Brainiac technology. Its escape from the Hive ship has drained it, but there is still some life left in its power core, Failsafe tells her, his head cocked to the side. Curious, there are no AI drives. Its data files are blank, Failsafe says. Waller nods and leans down. A blank slate, she whispers. She turns away, ordering her guards to bring the android back to base. We need to move quickly before Superman learns of this. We need to learn everything we can about our strange visitor, including how to control it, Waller says. Later, the Queen, now in the body of a young girl, awakens on a small farm. She is surprised and springs out of her bed. Moving through the house, she discovers Waller in the kitchen, making pancakes. Good morning. I hope you got some rest. You had quite the journey, Waller says, offering the Queen pancakes. But the young girl just hisses at her. But Waller manages to calm her though. I know what happened to you, and I know you were taken from your creator, but I'm here to help, Waller says. But the house is suddenly bathed in red light. Damn, the alien found us, Waller hisses. She steps out on the front porch to find Superman hovering before the house, his eyes blazed red. Give her to me now, Waller. She must be destroyed, Superman shouts. But Waller quickly draws her gun and blasts Superman with energy, and the Man of Steel suddenly disappears with a scream of pain. Waller looks back to the Queen, who is cowering in fear. Superman will be back, and he won't be alone. We need to build a plan to defend ourselves, to train, Waller says. Years pass and the two become close. Waller teaches the Queen to read and write, to speak English. She protects her from the Justice League, who comes to try and destroy them. Waller teaches the Queen that the heroes are truly evil. And after 20 years, Waller has become an old woman. She looks to the Queen as the two sit on the front porch and tells her that it is time. Do we have to leave? We are safe here, the Queen asks. Waller smiles and tells her that they need to make the whole world safe, that they can't be selfish. Failsafe, unplug me, Waller orders. In the real world, Failsafe deactivates the machine and Waller sits up. How long? She gasps. 20 hours for 20 years, Failsafe tells her. He suggests that they run more scans to make sure the programming took effect, but Waller shakes her head and orders them to unplug the Queen. As the machines hiss and deactivate, the Queen is released from her stasis pod. She steps out and regards Waller. Let us save the world, Mother. Those who would hurt us with power do not deserve it, the Queen says. Waller smiles at her. Of course, my dear. On a rooftop far above the streets of Metropolis, a helicopter waits silently. The rooftop door bangs open and several masked criminals rush towards their ride. Go, go, go! One of them shouts as they drag their large bags of money, but a blast of super breath freezes the helicopter before they can even reach it. The thugs turn in shock to see Superman floating before them. Here's the thing about silent alarms, boys. They're never silent to me, Superman says as he floats forward, offering them a chance to surrender. But one of the thugs is terrified. He's seen the news, bought into the lies about the heroes and how they're the threat. No, you guys promised me we'd be safe, he shouts as he raises his pistol and fires. Superman floats there for a moment, but the round doesn't bounce off of him. He looks down in shock to see blood leaking from his chest. His eyes roll up into his head, and he falls back, plummeting through the sky towards the city streets far below. 28 hours earlier, Animal Man and Animal Girl return to Keystone City from a camping trip. They land in the park and are shocked to see people running from them in fear. But some take their fear and push it to violence, and a crowd rushes the heroes, beating them with rocks and baseball bats. And the news records everything, including Animal Girl shouting at the crowd to leave Animal Man alone. In Gotham, Batman and Robin are watching the news reports. "This is insane," Damian whispers. Batman nods and patches through to the emergency channel known to all heroes. "Anyone within the sound of my voice, please respond," Batman says. More news reports begin to flood in, showing images of superheroes attacking the public, murdering people in the thousands. Batman and Robin watch as Shazam attacks a group of civilians, but Mr. Terrific comes over the comms.
"That Philly footage is fake as hell. I was with the captain at the time. We were fighting Giganta,"
Terrific shouts. Nightwing breaks through, confirming that the footage of the Titans attacking a refugee camp is also faked. More footage appears of heroes attacking people, Hal and Supergirl launching an attack on the city, as well as Firestorm and Blue Beetle. This is absurd! Hal doesn't even have his ring right now, and Supergirl is off planet, Wonder Woman says in shock to the news on the TV. "This is a global superhuman terrorist attack. We have to do something." Flash says over the comms, explaining that he just escaped an angry mob. "Such as?" Hawkman asks. "The Justice League can't release a statement. You guys disbanded," Hawkman growls. Meanwhile, at the Daily Planet, Lois and Clark are watching the news with horror. Clark moves to rush out of the building, telling Lois that he needs to make an appearance. He needs to reassure the people. As he rushes out of her office, Lucille rushes in. "Miss Lane, we're getting left behind. Everyone is running these news stories but us," Lucille says. Lois turns on her angry, snapping at her that the planet isn't going to be running some fake news stories that haven't been confirmed in any way. But Jimmy gets her attention and motions to the monitors. Lois? You might want to see this," he says. Lois sighs in frustration as she watches more reports of superhero attacks. "What garbage webpage is this?" she asks Jimmy, but he looks at her in shock. "Lois, that's us. That's our site," he says quietly. She shakes her head. "That's impossible. I didn't sign off on any of this," she says. Jimmy nods, explaining that someone is controlling their feeds. It came out of nowhere. "Now we're vomiting the same AI trash as the rest of the world," he says. Lois turns away in shock, her eyes wide in disbelief. Unbelievable. How could something like this happen so fast? Who could be behind this? She wonders quietly. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Order, Sarge Steele steps before Amanda Waller, confirming that the White House is publicly disavowing their actions. "They say our job is to monitor heroes, not create public panic and hack the internet," Steele says. Waller shakes her head. "Our job is whatever I say it is, and right now, we control the media," she says as they walk through the Hall of Order. She reminds Steele that what they're doing isn't disinformation. "I've said it for years. Superheroes cause more harm than they avert. They have absolute power and answer to no one. They could turn this world to ash. We're simply reminding the people of that fact." "I'd call that information," she says. They enter a room and Steele steps back in shock, and he looks up at the Brainiac Queen, who is plugged in to the world's internet. "What is that?" he gasps. This is the Brainiac Queen, Brainiac's failed attempt to create a mate. "Now under my supervision," Waller says with a smile. They turn as Failsafe enters the room. "She is a sentient supercomputer and the linchpin to this whole operation. We must keep the enemy off balance. It is time for Phase 2, Failsafe reports. Waller nods and walks out of the room, but Failsafe remains behind, turning his gaze upon Steele. "You seem to have concerns," Failsafe notes. Steele hesitates for a moment before nodding, explaining that he knows that Waller seeks worldwide control, but does she want it or desire it? A want can be achieved, but a desire is a void that can never be filled. It will always be hungry, he says softly. Failsafe ponders this for a moment before turning away. He joins Waller and reports Task Force 7 is ready for deployment. And when they're done, we will finally have order. Failsafe confirms. Waller doesn't hesitate. The word is given, she says. Meanwhile, Cyborg is trying to locate where the deep fakes are coming from, but he is fighting against active defenses. Something is keeping him out. He warns the others. The harder I push, the faster my circuits burn, he says over the comms. Oracle gets on the line, confirming that the disinformation is spreading. Now we're seeing deepfakes of senators arguing whether or not the other videos are real, she says. Batman, we're doing our best to stop these videos, but we can't find the source. Meanwhile, the other heroes have headed out into the world, countering the narrative with their actions, helping people, saving lives. This is Amanda Waller's doing, I just know it, Nightwing says as he saves a couple from a mugger. Other heroes help people around the world. Superman tells them all to keep it up. It's the only way we're gonna regain the public's trust, he says as he floats down to stop some bank robbers who are trying to flee in a helicopter. One of them raises a gun, and Superman is so focused on the people in front of him that he isn't aware that someone else is watching him close by. Someone's scanners are focused on him, detecting his power level. Nearby, Connor and John are flying over the city when they hear the sounds of gunshots. John turns to see his father falling out of the sky. He flies forward and catches his father. Dad, I got you. He's been shot in the chest. John shouts to Connor. How? He's Superman, Connor replies. John flies through the air, planning on carrying his father to the closest hospital. Batman, this is Superboy. Apparently Superman's lost his powers, Connor shouts. But suddenly, the boys become very weak and drop out of the sky, slamming hard into the street below, cracking the asphalt and sending cars flying. In Gotham, Batman becomes worried. Superboy, do you read me? Batman shouts into the radio, but someone else breaks through. Batman, this is Oracle. The deep fake footage has stopped, Oracle warns as she watches her video monitors. Her eyes widen as she begins to watch Waller's global message from the front of the Hall of Order. Waller stands before the world, telling them that she is just as shocked by the superheroes' worldwide attack on the people they've sworn to protect. Effective immediately in the wake of these attacks, my bureau is launching our ultimate solution to the danger posed by all superhumans. My task force will end the threat permanently, she says. Across the world, groups of heroes are suddenly attacked. Their powers weaken in moments. In Gotham, Batman listens to Waller's words, realization dawning on his face as his eyes widen in horror. My God, how did I not see this? Waller wouldn't go this route unless she already thinks she's won, Batman whispers. Suddenly, an explosion rips apart the building behind them, throwing Batman and Robin to the ground. In Central City, the Flash family is under attack, but they've slowed, something sapping their powers. Across the world, the heroes are all attacked. Their powers drain as they realize who Waller's new task force is. The Amazo robots, all modeled after members of the Justice League. The Justice League Dark is hit. Their magic is being forgotten as the Amazo strikes. The Flashes are attacked, their speed force drained. In moments, Wonder Woman is defeated by an Amazo who uses her own lasso to stop the Shazam family. Batman and Robin dodge another explosion, looking up to see Failsafe has returned to Gotham. Failsafe? He's teamed up with Waller? Damian shouts. Batman nods as they continue to run. Everyone listen to me. This is a blitzkrieg. Everyone who can escape, retreat now! Batman shouts, unaware that the super family is already being taken down by another Amazo. Batman and Robin continue to run, explosions chasing them. Stay connected and wait for further instructions. Waller doesn't know about this frequency, Batman shouts. But no one is responding. For a moment, there is silence. Then, a new voice breaks through. Incorrect, Bats, the voice says. Batman pauses as he recognizes the voice, belonging to a friend that's been missing for some time. Green Arrow? Where are you? Batman demands. But Oliver reveals that he's joined Waller's side. that he's told the League for years that humans don't like being looked down on. Sure, you guys are great at stopping supervillains, but fixing society's real problems? You guys get an F for effort. And now, there's nowhere to run and hide, Oliver says, explaining that Waller made a deal with the United Planets, and no one can leave Earth. That they've blocked off the multiverse, the time stream, and the microverse. Waller knows all your secrets. There's no escape, nowhere to run, no hope, Oliver says. Across the world, the last of the heroes are being defeated. And Oliver explains that these Amazos are new, so the old tricks won't work. That once they have your powers, there's no getting them back. An Amazo takes down the Doom Patrol. In London, another defeats Martian Manhunter and Elongated Man. In Gotham and Metropolis, Steel's task force soldiers arrest the depowered heroes, who are now unable to fight back. And in Metropolis, the Amazo grabs hold of John, dragging him away, leaving Superman to bleed out. It happened in a matter of hours. The heroes have been defeated, Waller has full control, and Oliver leaves these final words to all the depowered heroes over the radio. What has been taken can't be retrieved. Your powers are never coming back. Inside her command compound on the island nation of Gamora, Amanda Waller turns back to her war council. She motions to the screen, which shows images of all known heroes on Earth, most of which have been captured and depowered. Though she admits that some of the strongest are still at large. Would not the next step be to lure them out into the open by targeting the humans that they love? Brainiac Queen says as she steps forward, but Waller shakes her head, reminding the group that their goal isn't to harm humans. Everything that they are doing is to protect humanity from the threats that the heroes cause. I'm not a sociopath. Everything we're doing is to protect Earth, Waller says as she looks around the group. She orders Green Arrow and Failsafe to continue monitoring Task Force 7. Dreamer, you'll be conveying an asset. Your watchword is stealth, she says before turning back to Brainiac Queen. You will distract with a frontal assault, but you'll need a guide. Luckily, we have just the man for the job, Waller says with a smile. Meanwhile, at the Fortress of Solitude, Superman is still worried about John, pacing back and forth. Batman puts a hand on his friend's shoulder. Lie down and rest. The only thing holding you together is that containment suit, Batman says, reminding Clark that everyone is working their hardest, and Waller seems to simply be imprisoning the heroes, which means John is most likely fine. Diana steps forward, reminding everyone that they can't just wait around. They need to plan an attack. We need a captain, Diana tells the group. Arthur steps forward, explaining that he is a king and a hero. He has a history of leading armies and superheroes. But Mr. Terrific points out that he is a brilliant strategist and already leads the JSA. But Batman shakes his head, reminding Terrific that he has more experience and is a better tactician. Everyone begins to argue, but Diana holds up a hand. Enough! Gods, we were fools to retire from the Justice League. Now we can't even talk to each other. We can't afford the luxury of arguing. Whoever we choose needs to be the right person, Diana says. But then, someone speaks, and as their words echo through the fortress, all the heroes stop and listen. May I have everyone's attention, please? Nightwing says as he steps forward. He motions to the rest of his team. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nightwing, and these are the Titans. We're going to get through this, because we know something that Waller doesn't. What we are capable of. He explains to the gathering of heroes that while Waller thinks that she has beaten them, she doesn't understand that they aren't heroes because of their powers. They are all heroes because of their commitment to helping the helpless. To fight an injustice and a tyranny regardless of the odds. And that will be her downfall, Nightwing says. Wow, Mr. Terrific says, his eyes widened in awe. Batman nods and smiles. That's my boy, he whispers. No one argues. Everyone waits for Nightwing's orders, and after a moment, he nods. He turns to Batman. You say Waller has a mother box.
the key to accessing the powers of the new gods. Go get it, he orders. He turns to Superman. Superman, the multiverse is full of heroes who will help us without hesitation. Find them, he says. He then turns to Black Canary, asking her to put together a team to take down Oliver and bring him in. He then turns to Wonder Woman and asks her to figure out where Waller is keeping her prisoners and figure out a way to break them out. Damian turns to her with a smile. Take me, I insist. I love breaking into places, Damian whispers. Nightwing finishes, waiting for any questions. But Superman steps forward and suggests the depowered heroes arm themselves with the weapons and armor that has been stored in the Fortress of Solitude, hoping that will even the odds. The heroes all begin to prepare, going over battle plans and arming themselves. But their time is up. The door to the fortress suddenly explodes inward, knocking everyone back. The Brainiac Queen floats through the smoke, led by a frightening sight. John Kent, augmented by Brainiac tech, floats through the door, his eyes glowing as he glares at the heroes. Surrender, he orders. Superman rushes forward, shouting for his son. Nightwing tries to stop him, but John claps his hands together, causing a shockwave that knocks the heroes to the ground once more. Nightwing shakes his head as he gets to his feet and motions to his team. Okay, enough of that. Titans, go! He bellows, and the heroes rush forward, firing energy blasts at the Queen. But the rounds bounce harmlessly off her chest. Brainiac Queen! I saw Brainiac's ship blow up. What are you doing on Earth? What have you done to my son? Superman shouts. She looks at him as if he is nothing. Seeking knowledge, she hisses. She waves her hand, and her tech tentacles slide out, grabbing hold of heroes and knocking their weapons to the ground. There will be no further questions, she says. Portals begin to open up, and the heroes start to disappear. Batman and Wonder Woman rush forward. Damn it, every hero she adds to Waller's collection through those portals is one less soldier on our side, Batman says. Explosions hit John, but he just ignores them and turns his super breath on the other heroes. John, this isn't you. You're under her control. You can fight this, Superman says as he fights to reach his son. Meanwhile, while everyone continues to fight against the Queen and John, a dream portal opens up next to an unconscious Wonder Girl. We're in, Dream says as she steps through the portal. The asset? Waller demands over the radio. Dreamer looks at the carnage and sighs. It's right behind me. Is there really no other way? She asks. The Titans are rushing John, weakening him. But suddenly, a wave of energy washes over them and they are brought down. The Amazos! One of them has breached the fortress! Starfire shouts. The Amazo holds out his hand, beginning to drain the heroes. Preparing the prisoners for capture, the Amazo announces. But Zealot leaps forward through the air, slashing the robot with her blade. Die! She bellows as she slashes through the Amazo's armor, cutting it in half. The Amazo lets out a digitized scream of pain, but quickly pulls itself back together. Attempts at damage have been anticipated. We are indestructible, the Amazo says, before firing a blast into Zealot and knocking her out. The heroes continue to fight, while Mr. Terrific and Blue Beetle have brought Airwave into the next room and begin to work on a means of escape. Superman has finally reached his son, trying to get through to him. But John struggles against his father. John, it's me, your father! You can beat this! I promise! Superman shouts, but Flash arrives, now armed with tactical armor and a Flash motorcycle. He screeches to a stop and opens the lead-lined box that he took from the armory. Sorry, Superman, I don't want to do this, but there's no other choice, Flash says as he holds up the kryptonite to weaken John. Batman rushes across the room, grabbing the Phantom Zone projector. But the Amazo charges forward and grabs him by the throat, throwing the projector away. Batman, you begat Failsafe, who in turn begat me. Hello, grandfather, the Amazo says. Batman glares at the robot and slams his hands to the side of his head, hitting him with his new tactical suit's sonic waves. "Never call me that!" Batman growls as the robot spins away in pain. Nearby, the kryptonite has weakened John enough that he begins to break through the Brainiac programming, and Clark cradles his son.
Dad, it hurts. There's a way to end this.
John gasps as he reaches up for his father. And as Superman leans in, John whispers, "Join us." He grabs a hold of Superman's hand, and the Brainiac tech begins to leach over into him. Meanwhile, the Queen has found the bottled city of Kandor, and she looks at it with wonder. "This seems familiar somehow. I think I shall keep it," she muses. Nearby, Diana and Arthur get an idea. "What is it you landwalkers say? In case of emergency, break glass," Arthur shouts as he fires a blade from his new armor that shatters the glass bottle, releasing the superpowered Kryptonians within. They rush at the Queen, flying inside her and lighting her up with heat vision. Diana rushes in, slashing at the Queen in her weakened state. Nearby, John is overtaking Superman, but the Flash appears again on his motorcycle, grabbing a hold of John and pulling him away from Superman. In the next room, Mr. Terrific and Blue Beetle have finished their escape portal. "Everyone, this way! We've jury-rigged an escape portal, but it won't hold!" Nightwing shouts, motioning for everyone to come to him. The Queen begins to spark and hiss, but she uses red sun radiation to depower the Kandorians in her and teleports them away quickly. "Damn it!" Batman shouts, rushing forward and grabbing Superman off the ground. "Kandor was our Hail Mary," Batman hisses to his friend, but Superman pushes him away. "Not anymore. This is. Fortress, enact Black Zero Protocol. Initiate self-destruction," Superman shouts. A timer begins in the fortress, and the heroes rush for their escape portal. But the Queen lashes out with her tentacles and grabs Superman by the neck, pulling him close. "You will not leave. I am not done with you yet," she hisses. Superman glares at her. "I can say the same for you," he snaps. But the Queen is suddenly hit with dream energy that knocks her back and releases Superman. "Let go of him!" Dreamer shouts as she charges forward, throwing dream energy at the Queen, keeping her off balance. Dreamer launches forward, hitting the Queen again and again. "Seeing John like that is enough. I am done being Waller's puppet," Dreamer shouts as she continues to hit the Queen. She shouts that everything she's done has been to protect her family. "But my family would never want Waller's world. Amanda, if you're listening, you can go," Dreamer begins to shout. But the timer reaches 0, and the fortress explodes, fire ripping apart the crystals and ice. The fire flares around him, and John stares in shock for a moment. His true identity pierced through the programming for a brief second. "Dad? What have I done?" he whispers as he stares down at his own hands. In the aftermath, Waller watches the destruction on her screens, unhappy with Dreamer's final act of betrayal. But the Brainiac Queen survived the destruction and managed to overtake John once more before he could break through his programming. She sighs and turns to Steel, promising that the remaining heroes will be found. "Does Queen know about Dreamer? I don't need his hair on fire over another casualty," she whispers. Steel shakes his head. "It's on a need-to-know basis, and he doesn't," Steel assures her, explaining that he is Oliver going through the gear that they found at the Hall of Justice. "He's the only one who knows what half of it does," Steel explains. In the basement, Oliver is searching through several boxes of villain gear that Waller's forces pulled from the Hall of Justice. He finally smiles as he finds what he was searching for, and he pulls an hourglass out of the box. "Time's up," he whispers. After being captured by Task Force 7 and brought to the island prison of Gamora, Hal Jordan has managed to slip free of his interrogation
and moves quietly through Amanda Waller's prison complex. Moving through the base, he eventually comes to a large storehouse where he discovers a couple of soldiers standing guard over a vast amount of weapons that were confiscated from the Hall of Justice. Hal smiles and slips inside. Using one of Toyman's tops to distract the guards, he knocks them both out. "Piece of cake," Hal says with a smile as he moves deeper into the chamber while slipping on his recovered ring. But he rounds the corner to discover a large group of guards. They shout at him and Hal turns to escape. "Had to open my big mouth," Hal shouts as an alarm begins to sound somewhere in the base. He leaps over a crate as the guards open fire, rounds ripping through the crates. Hal lands and checks around. His eyes open wide as he sees large guns in a case nearby. But his excitement drops as he reads the description. "Condiment King's guns? Jordan Lux strikes again," he sighs. The soldiers move around the crates, readying their weapons for an attack. But Hal leaps over, spraying condiments on them. "Ah! I got spicy mustard in my eyes!" one of them shouts in pain. Another guard rushes forward and tackles Hal into more boxes, spilling a trident onto the ground. Hal smiles and grabs the old Blue Devil trident and hands it to the guard. "Hold this," he says as he taps a button. The rocket in the hilt activates and the guard is sent screaming through the air. Hal moves and opens another box, finding a collection of javelins. He comes up, throwing the weapons, hitting more of the soldiers. But his hand is suddenly stopped as a green construct forms around it. Hal turns in shock as Jadestone is standing behind him, glowing with the power of the lanterns. Hal puts up his hands and slowly backs away. "Hey, big fella," he says. Jadestone regards Hal with a robotic gaze, but its programming has been corrupted by the will of Alan Scott. Now, it has free will and is trying to decide if it should follow its programming. "Hal Jordan, formerly Green Lantern. Directive: eliminate or aid?" It ponders. Hal smiles. "I vote for the second one," he says before turning and running, and Jadestone watches him flee. "Eliminate," it decides. Activating its speed force, it flashes through the air and appears before Hal. And with no time to stop, Hal slams into it and falls to the ground. He reaches for another shattered case and finds one of Abracadabra's wands. Holding it up, he aims it at the robot as it begins to charge. A powerful energy wave flies out, but Jadestone meets it with its own lantern energy, causing a massive explosion in the room. When the smoke clears, Jadestone scans the crater and finds Hal missing. When Hal opens his eyes, he discovers his friends standing over him. "Hal? Are you okay?" Diana asks. Hal fully opens his eyes to see Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman standing over him. As Diana tends to her friend, Batman and Superman look around at the large assortment of weapons that are teleported in with Hal. "Seems you brought us some presents," Superman notes with a smile. Gamora Island. Amanda Waller stands in her command center, Failsafe and the Brainiac Queen by her side. The Queen reports that John Kent is still searching the globe for the heroes that escaped the Fortress of Solitude. Waller nods and turns to Failsafe, asking for a report on Task Force 7. Fast approaching 100% apprehension rate of both heroes and villains. Some of the units are becoming marginally less responsive for some reason. If it continues to be an issue, I will remote activate a partial reset, Failsafe reports. Waller nods and orders them to return to their work before turning back to her command center. Meanwhile, the heroes that escaped the Fortress of Solitude through a boom tube find themselves on Themyscira, the island of the Amazons. Though the Amazons normally have a no-men policy, Wonder Woman and Wonder Girl have managed to broker a deal with Queen Nubia to provide sanctuary for the heroes of Earth, at least for a short time. Big Barda looks around at the gathered heroes, knowing that they need to be ready for Superman's son's next attack. "Flash, do you still have the kryptonite from the fortress?" Zealot asks Wally. He looks ashamed, but nods. "Then hand it over. It's him or us now." Dr. Midnight says, now completely unable to see without his powers. But Nightwing steps forward, standing up to Barda and the others. Stop! That kid is clearly being manipulated by the Brainiac Queen. He's a casualty of war, not an enemy. He can be saved, Nightwing tells her. She begins to argue, but Nightwing doesn't back down. This discussion is closed, he tells her, meeting her glare. Barda stares for a moment longer before turning away. We will deal with him your way, but whatever blood he spills is yours alone to account for, she growls. Nightwing nods. So noted, he tells her. He turns back to the gathering of heroes, reminding them that Batman, Superman, Zatanna, Wonder Woman, and Robin have all gone off on their respective missions. The rest of the heroes need to prepare for a counterattack. With what? Some of us can't even throw a decent punch, someone shouts. Nightwing nods and motions to Hal Jordan, who is gathering the gear that he brought from Waller's prison. With the good stuff, cold gun, weather wand, a lightning axe, hardly a Mazo-level firepower. But you won't be defenseless, Hal says. Nightwing turns to the other heroes, asking Flash and Green Lantern to head to the Hall of Order to try and steal any more weapons and gather any intel they can find on Waller's operations and the Amazos. He asks Aquaman, Blue Beetle, Red Tornado, and Yara Flor to seek out John Starr and rescue him from the Suicide Squad. He then looks to Donna Troy, Big Barda, and the others and asks them to defend Themyscira in case any more of Waller's forces attack. The rest of us will follow up on distress signals from any heroes still in the field, Nightwing says before turning away. Meanwhile, Failsafe is dealing with the nation leaders from around the world, explaining to them that Waller and her forces have no issues with foreign nations, yet. But they will be rounding up other nations' superhumans, just like in America. Suddenly, Failsafe's radio crackles to life and Waller is yelling in his ear. We have an issue. You assured me your task force would be unstoppable, so explain to me how some of them appear to be running at less than peak capacity, Waller demands. Failsafe is already flying back towards Gamora and runs a diagnostic on his Amazos. Odd. They seem to have absorbed some sort of infection, Failsafe notes. An infection of identity. It's something we hadn't considered. They've begun to absorb minute slivers of their target's morals, Failsafe explains. He arrives at the island and stalks into the command center. Waller whirls on him, her eyes wide with anger. You're telling me goodness is a damn superpower? Waller demands. Failsafe shakes his head. I'm suggesting that a momentary reboot is in order, Failsafe tells her. He reaches up and touches a button on his chest. In an instant, the Amazos are all briefly shut down and begin to reboot. In Central City, Velocity is reaching out for Barry Allen, almost having him as they streak at super speed. But the robot suddenly begins to malfunction, and Barry puts some distance between them. His comms suddenly crackle to life.
Flash?
A mysterious voice says. Barry doesn't recognize the voice. Are you speaking through a modulator? He asks.
It doesn't matter. I'm someone you can trust. Waller's running a supermax prison off the coast of Gamora. You need to get to the lower levels now, the voice tells him. Barry immediately turns and begins to run across the ocean. And do what, mystery man? He asks. The voice pauses for a moment before responding. What a Flash does in a crisis. Save the world or die trying, the voice answers. Meanwhile, aboard the OSS Reef, Aquaman and Yara are fighting against the tech-enhanced Bizarro. Hold him back with the weather wand. I brought something that I think can stop him, Arthur shouts as he reaches into the duffel bag they brought. Yara ducks under another massive blow from Bizarro and hits him with a blast of lightning from her weather wand. But Bizarro pushes through the attack and hits Yara hard enough to snap her neck and send her flying through the air. Ha! Me kill girl with one punch, Bizarro bellows. He whirls and punches Arthur through the stomach, his bloody hand coming out of Aquaman's back. The Black Mercy curls around his chest
and he falls to his knees. Arthur and Yara stand and stare at him for a moment.
Explain to me how you beat Bizarro with a bouquet?
Yara asks as they both turn to head below deck and join the rest of their team. Meanwhile, Red Tornado and Blue Beetle have reached John Starr's cell.
Good news, evildoer! You're being sprung! Blue Beetle says as they unlock the cell.
But the commander steps back, fear in his eyes. No! Waller has me under guard! We'll never get past Black Alice!
John says. But Ted shakes his head. We're the good guys, dude! Let us worry about the teenage goth, he explains.
Suddenly, black magic hits them both as Black Alice appears.
Yeah?
She asks as she throws another spell at them. But Red Tornado has armed himself with Aztec's helmet, which allows him to turn himself and anyone he's touching intangible. Black Alice snarls with anger as her spells pass through them. How convenient, Black Alice snaps. Yara suddenly steps up behind her and punches her in the back of the head, knocking her to the ground.
Isn't it though? Yara says.
The heroes gather up and prepare to make their escape, but a member of the Suicide Squad steps out of the shadows and shoots Red Tornado in the head, destroying Aztec's helmet and dropping the robot to the ground. Blue Beetle picks up his friend as Arthur orders the rest of the heroes to return to the portal. Later, after the heroes have all returned to Themyscira, Mr. Terrific says thanks to Artemis for helping him finish Nightwing's secret plan. Your request has been honored. Everything is in place, Artemis explains, but there's a strange noise from behind them. Mr. Terrific turns in shock as the Brainiac Queen begins to appear from out of his machines. Mother, we appear to have located the fugitives and uncovered their base. Their subjugation is imminent, the Queen reports. Mr. Terrific's eyes widen in realization. We? Oh no, he whispers. Outside, a blast of heat vision sends the heroes flying away as John turns his fiery gaze upon them. The Queen fully forms herself from the machines around her and begins to stalk towards Mr. Terrific. Your Amazonian sanctuary is not as isolated as you believe, she explains, informing him that she pinged a signal from Red Tornado and followed it to the island. His system answered my call. Punish them, Super Son, the Queen orders. John rushes forward, knocking the Amazon warriors away as they try to meet his assault. But Barda is not willing to allow John to kill. She grabs a rifle and readies the kryptonite bullet that they had prepared. I have readied our defense, she says as she takes aim. Raven rushes forward. Wait, Nightwing said not to, she shouts, but Barda shakes her head. Batman's child is not here. This is a battlefield from which there is now no exit, Barda shouts. She raises the gun, preparing to fire, but an Escrima-stick flies through the air, knocking the rifle from her hands. Barda whirls in anger on Nightwing as he rushes forward. Why would you? She begins, but Nightwing rushes past her. Because A, I am in charge, and B, I know something you don't. He shouts over his shoulder at her. He stops and waves his hands. John, down here, Nightwing yells as he readies himself. You want to fight me? Let's go, toe to toe. Meet me on my level, he demands. John regards him for a moment before lowering to the ground. But the second his feet touch the island, energy begins to course through his body, and he screams out in pain. The other heroes are in shock, but Nightwing quickly explains that Mr. Terrific worked with Artemis to set up a magical trap that would hit John when he landed. Every bit of the island's magic is being focused on John, purging his system of Brainiac Queen circuitry, Nightwing shouts. John screams with more pain as he falls to his knees, blood oozing from his body where the tech is being torn free. But the Queen tries to regain control. We both serve Mother Waller, now and forever. She has shown me your evil. Together, we will eliminate the metahuman threat. Any other action is pointless, the Queen hisses. But John has returned. He looks up and flies forward, grabbing a hold of the Brainiac Queen. Waller lied to you. Everything she taught you about us was poisoned by her hate. What you really need to know about us, about who we are, is the truth. John gasps as he grabs a hold of the Queen's head. In that moment of contact, their minds link. Brainiac Queen opens her mouth to scream as images of the truth flash through her mind. Nearby, a boom tube opens, and Batman drops through holding a mother box. Mother box secured. He begins to shout, but pauses as he sees the chaos around him. At the command center, Waller is bellowing with rage. You stupid boy! What have you done to her? Waller demands as Brainiac Queen falls away. She slams an emergency override button on the console to take control of the Queen. John is weak and falls to the ground, his body covered in blood. He looks up as the Queen rushes at him. Her face is now a hologram of Waller's. I will turn every cell in your body to ash, Waller bellows. But Batman is there, holding up the mother box and opening up another boom tube. Not today, Waller, he shouts as she is sucked inside and disappears. In a moment, the battle is over. Superman rushes forward and holds his son. It's okay, son. It's over. And I am so proud of you, Superman whispers. The heroes gather. Superman and Zatanna have returned, now with the ability to travel the dark road in secret. Wally also returned, having gathered the schematics on the Amazos. Nightwing nods and turns to everyone. Okay, gear up everybody. The Amazons will tend to Tornado and the wounded. It's time we took the fight to Waller, Nightwing says. He looks around and is surprised. Wait, where's Batman? Nearby, Batman is standing over John's Star. You're coming with us, Star, Batman hisses as the villain cowers in fear. Because you know, don't you? You know how to get everyone's powers back, Batman growls. Meanwhile, in Waller's Supermax prison, Barry has reached the lowest level, and he is shocked to find a transmatter machine and his map of the multiverse. My map? How? Flash whispers. The voice crackles over the comms.
How else? She stole it. And she's using it,
the voice says. And the realization dawns on Barry. She's building a multiversal army, he whispers, unaware of the multiversal speedster supervillains rushing up behind. Having been freed from the Brainiac Queen's control, John is trying to heal on Themyscira and trying to get his life back together. But the Amazons want to make sure that John is fully free of the Queen's control, and so they use their magical tech to scan him. Being put under, John begins to remember all of the things that he did for Waller and the Brainiac Queen. All of the heroes that he helped imprison. But it is the memories of Dreamer that help him push past it, revealing that part of her might have survived through John's dreams. After the Amazons release him, John is called to finally help defeat Waller and her forces. He tries to have a moment with Jay, but the two end up fighting about Dreamer, since she did help kill Jay's mother and captured him. But they seem to make up, and John flies off to help his friends, promising Jay that the two of them would start their lives together after all this was over. After the assault on the Fortress of Solitude, Damian Wayne and Diana Prince have broken into Amanda Waller's super prison on the island of Gamora, ordered by Nightwing to remain undetected and break out the other heroes. Damian was more than happy to accompany Wonder Woman, as he has a fondness for breaking into places that are supposedly very secure. But they aren't the only ones sneaking through the shadows of this prison. Colonel Steve Trevor, who was stationed on the island for the sole purpose of Sergeant Steele framing him, has managed to slip away and disguise himself as one of the Sovereignty soldiers. There he saw firsthand Waller's operation and the fact that she has supervillains building her a multiversal teleporter.
But now, Steve has stumbled upon Wonder Woman and Damian, and he quickly embraces Diana, and the two enjoy a deep and passionate kiss. Or they would if they didn't have a teenager nearby. Gross, Damian hisses, reminding them that they are here for the purpose of breaking out the heroes, and that they will eventually have to save the entire world. Diana smiles and pulls away, motioning to the young hero. Steve Trevor, meet Damian, the son of Batman, she says. Damian turns away and sighs, reminding her about his secret identity. The trio manages to make their way through the facility, enjoying some witty banter while Damian comes up with a plan to break out the rest of the heroes. When they are above the command bunker for the prison, he tells the others that they need to jump down and take the bunker completely by surprise. When Damian doesn't hear a response, he turns back to see Diana and Steve making out again. Gross, Damian hisses a second time. The three of them leap down, crashing through the roof and quickly defeating the guards within. Damian develops a plan to have Wonder Woman act as a decoy, while Steve slips behind the guards and hits the button to unlock the prison cells. Meanwhile, Damian slips through the vents until he can get into the prison and gather the remaining heroes. Diana completes her task, standing before the guards to distract them. She draws her sword and ignores their guns. Diana won't back down. Even without her powers, she is a warrior born. But the guards raise their weapons, stating that Diana isn't Wonder Woman anymore. She's just a girl with a sword, they shout. The guards open fire, and Diana manages to deflect the bullets with her new armor, breaking her arms in the process. But luckily, the rest of the plan has worked, and Damian appears with the now freed heroes. Even without their powers, the guards stand no chance against the heroes, who quickly defeat them. Momentarily victorious, the heroes greet each other after a very rough series of events. Meanwhile, Damian uses a piece of chalk to activate a spell, allowing Zatanna to open a portal to the dark road for the heroes to escape through. As the last of the heroes escape the portal, Damian realizes that Diana and Steve aren't through. He turns around to see them making out once more. Gross, he hisses for the third time. Ahem. The world? The whole world? Saving it, Damian says, interrupting them and motioning to the portal in exasperation. Finally, all three leap through the portal, leaving the prison empty. Now, after the prison break, Green Arrow has pulled back the Sovereign forces to their headquarters at the island of Gamora, and the heroes gather on the Dark Road, preparing for their final assault. Wonder Woman looks around at the heroes. Most are still without powers, but all with a look of determination on their faces. We have 2 targets to hit. Batman thinks he can neutralize the Amazos, Diana says. Damian steps up next to her. Steve Trevor claims something of grave danger is being built in this prison's basement, he reports. Hal Jordan, who has reacquired his Green Lantern ring, steps forward with Barry Allen. On it, we'll catch up, he says with a nod. Nightwing steps forward. Okay then, everyone, at arms. Tonight, we take back what's ours. Not for us, but for a world that depends on us, he says. He glances over at the relatively new hero known as Airwave. Stay close to me, Nightwing orders the young hero who can control Wi-Fi signals. Finally, he looks at Batman. Time to bring the thunder, he says. Batman nods and holds up the mother box he liberated from Waller. At the island base, the Sovereign soldiers ready themselves, weapons loaded. Suddenly, a massive boom echoes over the island as the portal opens, and hundreds of heroes rush through. Nightwing out front, leading the charge. Go, go, go! He bellows. Sergeant Steele stands with his troops and smiles, ordering them to open fire with the weapons they had taken from the Hall of Justice. But the weapons suddenly backfire, sending energy coursing through their users and knocking out hundreds of troops in mere moments. Inside her command center, Waller watches this on her monitors in shock.
What the hell? Arrow, what happened to their weapons? She snaps and whirls around, but finds that Ollie has disappeared. Meanwhile, down in the basement of the Supermax prison, Flash is trying desperately to shut down the multiversal gateway that Waller has opened. But he fights against evil speedsters from across the multiverse. Save some fun for the others. He can be the first victim of Waller's multiversal army, Johnny Quick says as he taps a button and activates the gateway. Up above, the battle continues to rage on, with the depowered heroes rushing forward, fighting against the soldiers. Nightwing shouts for John, who quickly picks him up. We don't have time to reach Waller en masse. Let's you and I find her and shut this down from the inside, Nightwing shouts. John nods his head. I'm still not at 100%, but I'm strong enough for that, he says as he flies forward. Aquaman rushes forward, leading a group of heroes against the soldiers. Make way for Batman! Buy him some time! Nothing else matters now! Fight! Arthur bellows. Soldiers open fire, but Diana is there, saving several heroes with her shield, shouting for them to continue forward. Meanwhile, in the basement, Flash is still trying to shut the machine down. The gateway is suddenly pierced, and villains begin to break through. We number in the hundreds, and you are but one, dying alone and unmourned. Owlman laughs as he pushes through the gate. But Green Lantern is there, slamming a green wall in their way. Barry Allen is never alone, pal. Not while I'm around, Hal snaps. But his wall begins to crack. Gotta shut it down, buddy! I can't hold this all day, Hal shouts. Barry nods and rushes over to the machine. His hand moves at super speed as he tries to learn the complex controls. Hal's construct continues to crack as he tries to pour more willpower into it. Team, we need some reinforcements down here! Anyone you can spare! Hurry! Hal shouts over the team comms. Up above, the battle continues to rage, with the heroes having finally reached the gates to the Gamora base. But as the smoke swirls around them, the heroes stop short. Superman looks through the debris and sees the Amazos waiting for them. Your progress is meaningless. Surrender, the robots order. Superman raises a rocket launcher, and Aquaman steps up next to him. Like hell, Arthur snaps. Meanwhile, Nightwing and John have reached the command center. Superman, we have Waller, Nightwing reports. But the shadows swirl around him, and Failsafe grabs him from behind. To what end? Failsafe asks. John moves to stop him, but is suddenly overcome with weakness and drops to his knees. Waller turns around, a chunk of kryptonite in her hand. Do you honestly think we weren't anticipating the Kryptonian now that my girl no longer has him? Waller asks Nightwing. Waller glares at them both. I have been playing relatively nice with you metahumans, but no more. Today, we turn the page on superheroes once and for all, and put you all out of our misery. Meanwhile, in Failsafe's electronic lab, Batman, Blue Beetle, and John Starr are putting the finishing touches on the device he made from his hourglass. John glances at the heroes, explaining that the Amazos have a piece of his tech inside them, which is why they can heal so quickly. When they are wounded, their bodies reverse time to before they took the damage. But if they can hit even one of the Amazos with this new device, it will rewind them to before they drained the heroes of their powers, returning them to the heroes. As Batman and Ted rush outside, they see that the Amazos have won. Aquaman grunts with pain as one of them stands over him. Batman prepares to use the device, but an energy blast tears apart the ground around them, throwing them away. In the basement, Hal continues to try and hold the villains at bay. Barry, come on! I only have so much willpower, he shouts. But suddenly, The other speedsters are at his side. Jay and Wally grab hold of his arms, pouring their own willpower into him as Johnny Quick and Impulse join them. Then let us add ours, Jay says. Hal smiles and nods. Oh yeah, nothing better than a Lantern Flash team-up, he shouts. Outside, Batman is unconscious, and suddenly a shadow falls over him. There you are. Sorry to take it from you, Bats. Ollie says as he reaches down for the device. He looks around at the destruction, at the fallen heroes. His side is winning. Oliver smiles and sticks the device on one of his arrows. He lifts up the bow and takes careful aim. Heroes got a hero, Oliver whispers as he fires. The arrow speeds through the battlefield and slams into the back of one of the Amazos. Energy begins to pour off the robot as time itself reverses inside them, sending all the powers back to where they came from. And in moments, the heroes stand tall. Superman flexes as he feels his strength return. Martian Manhunter takes on his heroic form once more. Diana rises up, and the heroes launch forward, taking the Amazos out in seconds. That felt amazing, Superman says as he crushes the last Amazo head in his hands. He turns back to the heroes, but something is wrong. Not everyone has the right powers. Inside the command center, Waller is watching this all unfold. No, no, no! She bellows in rage. She turns back to see Failsafe suddenly spark and fall. Nightwing stands tall and ready. Failsafe got drained too, Amanda. You're out of contingency plans, he says with a smile. But she shakes her head and draws a pistol. Green Lantern and the Flashes are still losing. That gate is my back door. Move an inch and I'll blow your head off. But a portal opens next to her, and Dreamer comes flying out, punching Waller hard enough to bring her down. No, you won't, Dreamer shouts. Outside, the last Amazo has fallen. The heroes begin to pick up their wounded, and Ted Kord and Batman look at Oliver in surprise. Thought you were a rat, Ted says. But Oliver smiles and shrugs. I had to earn Waller's trust, but lying wasn't enough. Not with all her mind readers and psychics. No, I had to genuinely believe in her cause. Which I did until Martian Manhunter's telepathic implant timed out as planned, Oliver explains. Batman glances at Jean. You could have shared that with us, Batman growls. Jean nods his head sagely. I had not counted on being captured immediately. But you lecturing us about keeping secret plans is highly ironic, Jean points out. Inside, Waller looks up with shock at Dreamer standing over her, believing that she was dead. But Dreamer explains that she did die in the fortress. But turns out you can't kill a dream. And John's dreams of her kept her alive and allowed her to heal. And I have waited for my chance at you, Dreamer says as she helps John to his feet. In the basement, Flash has finally figured out the machine, but he shouts to his friend that if he shuts it down, it will cut them off from the multiverse permanently. No choice! Make the play! Hal shouts. Barry nods and hits the buttons, destroying the machine and blowing the gate up, filling the room with a massive explosion. Upstairs, Waller snarls. She gloats that no matter what, the world won't trust their heroes again, thanks to the Brainiac Queen's AI and the misinformation she's spread. The entire planet knows what I want them to know, that the superheroes are monsters. The world's governments will run you off this earth before they let you save a cat from a tree. I won, she snarls at them. But Nightwing shakes his head. You've been hanging out with the bad guys for too long, Waller. That was straight up the villain rant I was counting on. Suddenly, energy appears before him, solidifying into Airwave. Say, have you met my friend Airwave? Nightwing asks. Airwave smiles next to him. He's a living Wi-Fi signal. He captured your little tantrum and broadcast it to every phone, every computer, every screen on the planet Earth. The world knows it was duped.
It's over, Amanda. You're through, Nightwing tells her with a smile. 48 hours later, the heroes have begun to rebuild. The fortress is being put back together. The Flashes gather, talking about how their Earth is cut off from the multiverse. But Barry seems to also be cut off from the Speed Force now. Meanwhile, Amanda Waller has been placed in Belle Reve prison. Dreamer goes to visit her, but Waller smiles, pointing out that she knows too many secrets of the heroes, identities and aliases, and she is not above blackmailing her way free. Every hidden base, every alias, every secret weakness. There isn't anything I don't know about every hero on Earth, she says. Dreamer nods and folds her arms. Really? She asks. Where's the Batcave? Waller tries to think about it, but the answer doesn't come. She opens her mouth in surprise. What's a Green Lantern's alter ego? How about Mary Marvel? Dreamer asks. Waller's eyes widen as she tries to think, but the answers won't come. They seem just out of reach. Dreamer smiles. Thank you for helping me refine my powers, Amanda, Dreamer says, explaining that it's easy for her to go inside someone's dreams and lock away memories. And Waller begins to bang on the wall of her cell. You erased my mind, she yells. But Dreamer shakes her head and feigns innocence. Me? No. That would be unethical. You always complained about how squeaky clean we are. Superman and his friends would never approve. If they knew, Dreamer tells her. She turns away, explaining that the knowledge is simply locked away, just out of reach of Waller's recollection, so that it almost seems that she knows the answers. Dreamer leaves Waller there, raging at the world, trapped in her cell. Elsewhere, Green Arrow has called together Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman at the original Justice League headquarters. The Trinity still aren't happy with Oliver for what he did, even though it's been explained why, pointing out that some heroes were severely wounded, while others still haven't regained their powers, and others got random powers. Oliver nods his head, pointing out that none of that is wrong. Errors were made, not just by me, but by all of us. I had to go solo because we're not a team anymore, Oliver says, pointing out that it was wrong of them to disband the Justice League after the Dark Crisis event. Had we all been in constant communication like the old days, this wouldn't have happened, Oliver points out. He leans back in his chair. I can't believe I'm the one saying this, but the world needs a Justice League. Bigger than before. More coordinated, more proactive, he says with a sigh. Superman and Wonder Woman smile at each other. Oliver suddenly gets the feeling that he's not being let in on the joke. Batman steps forward and brings up a holo display. Ollie, we'd like to show you something, Batman says as the image appears. Oliver stands and looks over the display of the new Justice League watchtower that is already under construction. Whoa, he whispers. 52 days have passed since the fall of Amanda Waller's Bureau of Sovereignty. Earth's greatest heroes have decided that they were wrong to disband the Justice League and have begun construction on a new watchtower. But the mistakes of the past would not be repeated, and so the greatest minds have come together. A new card was created, built with the greatest tech on Earth, alien technology, and sealed with powerful magics. The cards were sent out to the greatest heroes of the world. Some were shocked to be offered a spot, others thought it was time they were given their dues, and others rejected the idea. But Superman felt that some people needed to be approached directly. In Metropolis, Booster Gold floats down from a burning building, 2 children in his arms.
Excellent work, sir. Grade A superheroing. Would you like me to upload this to our socials?
Skeets asks, but Booster shakes his head. Don't bother, Skeets, he says. He lands near the kids' parents and takes a selfie with the whole family. Everyone, say Guy Gardner sucks, Booster says, making the kids laugh. And with that, he takes off into the sky, flying away. Great work, Michael, Superman calls out. Booster is shocked to see Big Blue floating nearby. "I'm impressed," Superman says with a smile. Booster floats over to him. "Oh hey, I know I'm on your turf. Next time I'll leave the life and cat saving to you. Wait, am I in trouble? I swear, whatever Ted told you is a lie. Mostly," Booster says sheepishly. But Superman laughs and pats him on the shoulder. He reaches out and shakes his hand. "Nothing like that. In the past, the Justice League hasn't always welcomed you with open arms. You've had a few ups and downs over the years, but I kept my eye on you. Your growth as a hero is unquestionable," Superman says, and he holds out the Justice League membership card. "You earned this," Superman says. Booster looks down in shock. "This is it. Finally," Booster whispers. Superman is surprised by the idea, pointing out that Booster has been in the Justice League in the past, but Michael shakes his head. He explains that in the future he comes from, before he borrowed the tech that made him a hero, he always saw displays with touchstone items. Batarangs, crystals from the Fortress of Solitude, the Legion flight ring, and this membership card, Booster says, holding up the item. Booster looks at Superman. "I feel lucky to be here. Now," Booster says. Superman smiles at his enthusiasm and flies away, calling for Booster to not be late to the first meeting. The next day, the teleporters begin to activate, allowing many heroes to arrive on the newly created Justice League Watchtower. Green Lanterns arrive from space, and other heroes arrive via flight and vehicles. As they move through the halls, the heroes run into the Question, who is in charge of tower security. Together, they all head into the main hall, where Mr. Terrific welcomes them all to the first meeting of the Justice League Unlimited. He shows them the vast network of the tower, which will allow them to monitor and respond to alerts throughout the world. Booster arrives during Mr. Terrific's speech, cursing himself for being late.
"I told you we shouldn't have stopped for hot dogs,"
Skeets whispers. Booster hovers over the ground as Terrific shows them a blank membership card, which symbolizes the next heroes that will join the League. "To the future, my friends," Mr. Terrific tells the group with a smile. But suddenly, the entire watchtower begins to shift and alarms begin to sound. Batman steps forward. "We have a breach! Security protocols, activate!" Batman shouts to the computer. Skeets suddenly hovers up next to Booster.
"Sir, my records show that this is not what happened."
Skeets reports. Michael nods quickly. "No duh, Skeets," he shouts. Suddenly, all the magic users begin to babble in reverse and upside down. But one word stands out to Diana, and she looks around in concern. "The Spectre?" she whispers. All the magic users bellow in pain as Omega beams suddenly spark from their eyes, shooting around the room and ripping through the newly constructed watchtower. With a massive echoing explosion, a boom tube suddenly opens. "Okay, that's not good," Blue Beetle whispers as he steps up next to Batman and Yara Flor. "Everyone get ready," Batman hisses. From the boom tube, a massive being emerges. "Finally," Darkseid rumbles as he steps into the tower, wielding an axe for an arm and wrapped in a perverted version of the Spectre's cloak. "Darkseid is bonded with the Spectre?" Superman says as the heroes charge forward. "If that's the case, Darkseid has gone from ruler of Apocalypse to death itself," Hal says as he fires a blast of energy. But Darkseid slams his axe into the ground, causing the ground to shake and throw the heroes aside. "It is done. Stop resisting and tell me the truth. What was that surge I felt?" Darkseid bellows. The other heroes in the chamber rush forward as fires and explosions erupt around them due to Darkseid's attack.
"We have a problem, sir. I'm detecting a break in reality."
Skeets reports as Michael flies across the room to Mr. Terrific. "Terrific, how can I help?"
Michael asks, as Terrific quickly runs his calculations with his T-spheres. Darkseid is here, but he also isn't. He's out of sync and reality is shifting around him. I've never seen anything like it, Mr. Terrific says. Booster turns and sees more heroes charging. Booster, don't just stand there! Fight! Batman shouts. As the heroes charge at the powerful Darkseid, the other magic users have regained their senses, and Zatanna pulls them into a circle, and they begin to cast a spell. The Spectre is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, so Darkseid must have gone to great lengths to merge with him. But I can sense that Spectre resists his control, which means their bond is not complete. Our best chance of putting a stop to this is to separate them, Zatanna calls, shouting that the spellcasters need time. Diana charges forward with Batman, wrapping her lasso around Darkseid's massive body. Then you will have it, sister, she bellows. It becomes apparent that Darkseid is trying to create some sort of portal from the Watchtower tech. He turns his gaze upon Wonder Woman. Diana of the Amazons, men may fear your lasso of truth, but not Darkseid. The truth is all I was after this day, and now I have found it, and it is glorious. Darkseid rumbles. The spell is finished, and Zatanna casts it upon Superman. This will protect you from the Spectre, but not Darkseid, she warns. Superman nods. It's a risk, but we are out of time, Zatanna, he tells her. He flies towards Darkseid at super speed, rising up before him. Darkseid struggles against the hold of Diana's lasso, and she pulls it tight, trying to stop him from breaking free. We can't hold him! It's now or never, Cal! She shouts, gritting her teeth at the strain. Your bond with the Spectre is no more, Darkseid. Free him, Superman commands. Darkseid lets out a bellow of pain as energy begins to spark around him. And suddenly, his body begins to disintegrate. Thank you. Darkseid ends. The ruler whispers before disappearing, leaving a rip in reality behind him that pulses with energy. The hall is suddenly quiet. Did he thank us? Hal asks the group as he floats in the air. Other heroes step forward to study the tear. I've seen one of these before. A rip in time and space, Wally tells the others. Superman nods. Everyone, prepare yourself. We have our first mission. Superman orders the newly formed League. Later, the heroes gather around the tear. Briefly, Orion warns them that if Darkseid is truly dead, then the universe will create something else to take his place, to maintain the balance. With these words, he departs for New Genesis to consult with the Highfather. The heroes turn back to Mr. Terrific, who explains that the blank membership card was at the center of the attack, and now acts as a doorway into the tear. It now glows a sick red, and the Omega symbol upon it. A doorway to what? Superman asks Mr. Terrific as he peers into the tear. Mr. Terrific explains that a hidden world that they discovered while mapping the multiverse has seemingly been activated. The Elseworld, Superman whispers. Mr. Terrific nods and explains that they first discovered the Alpha World after Perpetua and the Darkest Knight's defeat. But readings indicated that it was still forming, and now it's changed. It is now a finished world that radiates the same kind of energy as Darkseid, Mr. Terrific explains. He tells them that the vibrational frequency of this world is chaotic, and he doesn't know what will happen if the vibrations calm. The bottom line is that this world is dangerous. Because of the unnatural flow of time there, the only people who could set foot safely are those who have an abundance of tachyon particles, Mr. Terrific finishes. Which means only time travelers can go there, Booster Gold says as he enters the room.
Dramatic entrance, sir. One of your best.
Skeets whispers as he floats near Michael's shoulder. Booster steps forward, explaining that this is something that he needs to do. "This is why I'm here. It's gotta be me," Booster tells Superman. Mr. Terrific steps forward to help set everything up, explaining to Michael that he is attaching a tether to Skeets. In exactly 10 minutes, he will activate a portal that will bring you back here. "Do not lose Skeets," Mr. Terrific tells the hero.
I think you mean, Skeets, do not lose Booster Gold.
The little robot jokes. Booster steps up to the portal, but pauses and turns back to the other heroes. "Don't tell Ted, he worries too much," Booster says before turning and leaping into the portal. The portal shifts around them in a swirl of spinning colors as Booster and Skeets plummet through time and space. Finally, they drop out of the portal and land on the ground. Booster continues to vibrate as he comes into sync with this world. "Ugh, we've had worse landings," he groans. He stands up and looks at the smoking landscape around him. "Okay, Skeets, we only got 10 minutes. Let's get started on our readings," he begins to say, but Michael realizes that he is alone. He turns and looks around, realizing that he is standing in Metropolis, but the sky is blood red, and lightning crackles from above. He turns to see the Daily Planet with an Omega symbol glowing on the side, and parademons flying through the sky. "Oh no. No, 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 no!" Booster whispers. An Omega beam suddenly shoots out of the sky, and Booster leaps away from the building as it rips apart the concrete around him. He looks up to see an army of powered beings flying towards him, led by Darkseid. "Oh no," Booster whispers as he recognizes the heroes, all armed with Omega Legion rings. "Finally, I have my army. My Legion," Darkseid rumbles. 52 days earlier, Darkseid has felt a surge, a change in his existence that he doesn't understand. Now, Darkseid stands before his machine, created using Element X from the Forge of Worlds. It contains technology from the past, present, and future. The machine continues to move as Darkseid floats over it. He was warned that it would only work for one person, the one who bonded with it in blood. Darkseid readies himself and raises an axe over his head. He brings it down swiftly, slicing through his arm, cutting off his hand. His blood spills from the wound, and Darkseid pours it onto the machine. But it isn't enough. The machine chimes that more blood is needed. The smile falls from Darkseid's face, but a voice calls to him, and he turns to see his followers, led by his son, Kalibak. Kalibak pleads with his father, wishing to know the Dark God's reasoning for disappearing. "But then we realized, you are giving us a chance to lead," Kalibak states. Darkseid leans forward, his eyes glowing red. "Ah, is that what I was doing, child?" Darkseid rumbles. Kalibak nods his head. "And we rise to the challenge. Look what we have made you," Kalibak says, motioning to the great army behind him. Steppenwolf and the others step forward, agreeing with Kalibak that they should take this army and destroy the Earth. But Darkseid refuses. Kalibak grows angry with his father. "Have you forgotten who you are?" Kalibak demands. Darkseid pauses for a moment. "Perhaps I have," Darkseid muses, admitting that where his path now leads, he must go alone. But Kalibak shakes his head. "No! We are your blood! We will not leave you! Whatever you are seeking, we will help!" Kalibak says, standing beside his father. Darkseid stares at his great machine for a moment. "All right, You can help, he rumbles. He whirls quickly, stabbing his axe through Kalibek's chest. His son stares in shock for a moment before Darkseid raises him up. You're right, child. You are my blood, and I am grateful, Darkseid tells his son before lifting him into the air and throwing him to the great machine. The machine kicks to life, fire and light exploding outward. Bonding complete, it chimes. Now, with the machine completed, Darkseid had only one more task: to find the being known as the Spectre. So he began his search, heading into the bowels of hell, demanding to know where the Spectre is. But the demons had no answer for him. Next, he searches heaven. Fighting against the angels, Zariel rose against Darkseid, offering him a chance at peace with his lost wife if he would only give up his quest for the spirit of vengeance. But Darkseid refused. Next was the dark side of the moon, where the Lord of Apocalypse met with the being known as Eclipso. For a brief moment, it seemed as if Darkseid would be felled. But Darkseid is not merely a being of exceptional strength and power, but a cunning warlord as well. Using his boom tube, Darkseid was able to destroy Eclipso, and there, on the dark side of the moon, he found his prize. He pulled a massive chain and released the gate on a prison cell. Within, he found Jim Corrigan, the human avatar of the Spectre. Darkseid smiled at the human. Finally, I will know the truth, because you will tell me, Darkseid rumbled. But a light appears, and from a rip in the fabric of reality, the Quintessence arrives to defeat Darkseid, explaining that the Spectre would never bond with a being such as Darkseid. But Darkseid merely smiles. That is true, but I've taken steps to change the rules of the universe. I've built a machine, a miracle machine, and now all I have to do is make a wish, he says. The Quintessence look at him with fear as they realize the truth. And I wish to bond with the Spectre, Darkseid whispers. Corrigan suddenly screams in pain as the Spectre is torn from his body. The spirit tries to struggle against the pull, but he cannot. Finally, it is done. Stop resisting and tell me the truth. What was the surge I felt? Darkseid demands. The bonding starts, but the Spectre is still fighting. He opens a portal and brings Darkseid to the Justice League Watchtower. Darkseid knows that the Spectre hopes that the heroes will be able to stop them. The heroes are unaware of the Spectre's presence, and as Darkseid fights against them, he still demands answers from the Spirit of Vengeance. Look around you, Darkseid. This is who you are. This is your part. Relish it. You are a key player in the universe, Spectre tells him. But Darkseid continues to rage, his battle with the heroes barely registering. No! There is more! Tell me! He demands. Darkseid is aware that he is fighting the heroes, but it is his battle with the Spectre that he is truly focused on. For a brief moment, Darkseid sees his past, his every battle with the heroes of the universe. And he knows that the Spectre is right, that Darkseid is a constant of balance, that he will always be. But Darkseid is finished with always. The Spectre flies forward, for a brief moment possessing Superman, who has flown forward to meet Darkseid. A blast of energy pierces the god of Apocalypse. Darkseid, you see what you are! Darkseid is! The Spectre shouts. But Darkseid feels the energy hit him, and he gives up, releasing himself. No, Spectre. Darkseid was. Thank you. Darkseid ends. Darkseid whispers. And in that moment, Darkseid feels himself finally end. He opens himself to death, and as he ends, he begins once more. But this time, he is no longer tethered to one world, to one purpose. He holds out his hand and creates once more. A world that is driven by challenge and turmoil. A world where heroes are born to face greater odds. Where an Amazon rides a beast of apocalypse. Where a Batman faces greater threats to Gotham without the aid he might have had. Where an alien falls to Earth as a fully grown man. Darkseid stares down at his newly created world and smiles.
And there you have it, the absolute power and the creation of the absolute universe. I wanted to do this as today's full story because the Absolute line has been phenomenal. And you can check out the Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman here on the channel already, and can look forward to the Flash, Green Lantern, and more when they're released. But let me know what you thought of today's story down below, and which of the Absolute titles is your favorite, or which you're most looking forward to. And of course, like and subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. And we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Penny.